Hello, my lovely anatomists and physiologists. This is our last video for urinary system, and we're talking about micturition reflex, or what we can think of as either like urination, or sometimes it's described as voiding. So sometimes this is described as the voiding reflex. Now remember, our bladder can store 500 to 600 milliliters of fluid. That's so much. But at about 150 milliliters, we start becoming aware and begin to start feeling the need to urinate. And then let's also remind ourselves of the detrusor muscle, which is located, it's a smooth muscle surrounding the urinary bladder. And we'll see that it's going to have an involvement here and helping to void the urine. So when we start filling our bladder with fluid, and when we're getting to about 150 milliliters, we'll start seeing stretch receptors, which are going to be stimulated. And that's going to send our signal to the spinal cord. And so we're going to have both a short reflex, a short signaling, and then also a long signaling. When we see the signal coming to the spinal cord, we'll see that that signal will transmit to somatic neurons to inhibit those. So I'm going to say, when the stretch receptors are stimulated, they go to the spinal cord, and that's going to inhibit somatic neurons, which is going to trigger to relax the external urethral sphincter. We're also going to see that this signal, when it reaches the spinal cord, is going to stimulate parasympathetic nerves. And this is going to cause two things to happen. We're going to have the detrusor muscle contract. And we're going to see a relaxation of the internal urethral sphincter. So if you pay attention to what's going on here, when those stretch receptors are stimulated, the information goes to the spinal cord, and you're going to have all of these three things happening together. Like right away, detrusor muscle contracts, internal urethral sphincter relaxes, external urethral sphincter relaxes, urine is voided, right? But clearly, we learn how to control this reflex. So what we're looking at in this sequence of events is the unconscious, like hardwired, what we get at the start sort of signaling pathway. So what we see is we can learn to override this inhibition of the somatic neuron. So we can choose when to relax the external urethral sphincter. So we get to conscious control, because this external urethral sphincter, remember, is a skeletal muscle. But this is something that we have to learn. We have to learn. In order to be able to do this, you have to have an intact spinal cord and a functional specific nerve, pudendal nerve, which I don't think we studied expressly in our structure sheets of our lab. So what we're seeing for those of us who are continent, meaning we are able to control voiding or control the micturition reflex, stretch receptors signal to the spinal cord, which signal to the parasympathetic nervous system, which causes the detrusor muscle to contract and relaxes the internal urethral sphincter. But then we have the conscious control over when to relax the external urethral sphincter. Okay. All right. Thank you all for your participation in our video series. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.